Hello. Hey, how's it going? Um, it's me, Darren. I'm down here in the basement. It looks like I might have actually fixed the internet problems. So that is exciting. Can't quite tell whether the Facebook is working or not. Um, and I don't quite know whether we have any friends joining us. I sent the link out a little late, so we'll have to see what happens. Um, I'm going to try to resend that real quick while we start here. Um, yeah, so tonight we get into a fun little verse that we may have to spend a couple weeks on because I didn't get a chance this week to prepare very much. So um, some people joined me to help out because I didn't get very far. So anyway, yeah. So hope everyone is doing all right. And let me read the text that we are going to be looking at this evening. It comes from Mark 10, verses 17. Let's see. Can you see that all right? Yeah. Verses 17 through 31. As he was setting out on a journey, a man ran up and knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good but God alone. You know the commandments. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. You shall not defraud. Honor your father and mother." He said to him, "Teacher, I have kept all these since my youth." Jesus, looking at him, loved him and said, "You lack one thing. Go sell what you own and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me." When he heard this, he was shocked, and he went away grieving, for he had many possessions. Then Jesus looked around and said to his disciples, "How hard will it be for those who have wealth to enter the kingdom of God?" And the disciples were perplexed at these words. But Jesus said to them again, "Children, how hard is it to enter the kingdom of God? It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God." They were greatly astounded and said to one another, "Then who can be saved?" Jesus looked at them and said, "For mortals it is impossible, but not for God. For God all things are possible." Peter began to say to him, "Look, we have left everything and followed you." Jesus said, "Truly I tell you, there is no one who has left house or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for my sake and for the sake of the good news, who will not receive 100-fold now in this age, houses, brothers and sisters, mothers and children, and fields with persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. What many, but many who are first will be last, and the last will be first." All right. Good, good, good. I'm going to keep that up there in case we need to go back to it. Yeah, so this text is a fairly interesting one, and people have been playing around with its implications for a number of years, because obviously, you know, it's always hard to challenge the people who are keeping you um, eating and keeping you in your house. And that's often the people with wealth, in one way or another. The one thing that I wanted to kind of think about today, first of all, is that one thing that I think that is hard. One thing I think is difficult for us is that I think we get into a very tricky situation um, with just what we mean by wealth and many possessions. Um, because I know, I mean, there are some people in the church that I'm in now, and the church I was in before, who you could say have, you know, some wealth, some moderate amount of wealth. Um, the church I'm at now, one of the members one of the folks that was a member for a long time was the owner of a fairly large corporation, and I would say that that family has many possessions, has considerable wealth. But other than that, the folks that work for that family and even in upper management are doing well. But we have to think about what we mean by many possessions and wealth in that regard. Let's see. All right, everybody. I see Mark over there, so everybody cross your fingers that we have we have we have sound and everything. I'm going to try to bring him in. I hear noises, Mark. That's always good.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. All right.
All right.
One,
I figured out what the problem was.
oh
That
yeah.
stupid browser. Whatever
Oh,
that, yeah. It does not like that browser.
okay. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, good, good. Yeah. So how have you been?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. That's good. Um,
I thought we were gonna have Marcy tonight.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to,
Yeah.
don't want to call her out right now, but maybe she's driving back home from something or something
Maybe
like.
she is. Yeah.
Well,
She be working.
she needs to, yeah, she is now. She's,
Yeah.
I think, holding down two jobs now. So
That's all. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with her.
yeah, so um, yeah, so I'm glad that I think I got my internet fixed from last week.
Okay.
I'm
I don't
not
think
sure.
I don't
I'm
think the
not.
problem was the internet. I think it was that browser.
Yeah, well, that was you, but on my end, I was cutting out all the time. So I think part
Oh,
of it,
really?
I had my own problems. And now I think tonight, Facebook is I think that Facebook is up, but I don't think it's taken the stream very well. I don't know if it's coming.
Really? Yeah. They've
I
been
don't.
having they've been having problems all day.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Tech,
So
tech, tech.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was listening to the radio station here from Milwaukee, and the guy was saying, that they needed to, they were updating it so that they could, make sure that they were spying on us even better, somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
they
I
missed
guess
they missed a
this
couple
Irish
tricks.
thing, this Irish thing come in good time with all the other stuff going on with them.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so I was saying just a minute ago, I didn't get I didn't get a chance to really do a lot of study on this, but
Yeah, neither did I. Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll get it. Maybe we'll return to it, because I don't remember what the text is we're supposed to look at next week, but maybe we'll have to return to it again, because this one's pretty rich with stuff. Um,
The rich young guy.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was just starting to say, before you came on, when I was what I because I think one of the things, there's a couple of different reasons why I think that we don't talk about this kind of stuff in church a lot, about wealth and that sort of thing, and class. I think one of the main reasons is that we like, I mean, in the churches that I'm in, people, when you say that, when you start criticizing people who have, you know, wealth and lots of possessions, people automatically think you're talking about them, you know. But
Right.
almost everyone in my congregation right now, I mean, they have more wealth maybe than the people down the street from us who live, in the apartments and, and
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
yeah,
Yeah, they have more wealth, they have more possessions, but they're probably living at the standard that everyone should be living at. It's not really it's not like it's not like the idea would necessarily be to lower their standard of living. It would be to raise everybody else's standard of living to theirs. The
yeah,
people who are the problem are the people with, you know, the Zuckerbergs of the world,
yeah,
the people with the wealth beyond their imagining.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the people, I mean, probably, I mean, I don't know for sure, but probably the most well-to-do person in my church now, and this is not many of them, but some of them are maybe, into the millionaire category,
Wait,
you know,
really? Wow.
maybe, you
Maybe.
know, maybe, right? Like, and maybe early millions, like, 1, 2, like something like that. When you're talking about,
That's
you know,
past me. That's way
well, no,
past.
I mean, and see, this is the thing. I think it's past a lot of people,
Yeah,
but the reality is that those everyone should be in the easy, like, 100,000, 200,000 kind of, having some money in the bank, having a place to live. Like, that should be the standard. And
well,
maybe these,
what
you
I hear
know,
you say, what I hear you saying is that folks shouldn't struggle.
well, and I don't think, I mean, to me, like, when I think about when it's time to redistribute, like, wealth to make it possible that people who don't have hardly anything can live, the first people I don't think first about the people who have, like, 2 houses. They have their lake house or whatever. I
Yeah,
think about people that have 5 houses, 6 houses, and their 6th house is, bigger than our, other people's 2 or 3 houses combined.
yeah,
You know, I mean, I think that I heard a thing today. I heard a thing the other day, someone talking, this guy from India, um, and he was, I mean, he's a socialist from India, right? So I mean, and so he was, and they were saying, they were talking about class conflict and this thing, and he said, we don't want to we don't want to eliminate the first class people. We want
yeah,
to eliminate the second class. Like, we don't want to, like, take away all of the good stuff. Like, we want to raise everybody up to the place where they have good stuff. Like, we
right.
want to eliminate second class citizenship. We
Yeah,
want to we want everybody to be living in first class
yeah,
citizenship.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, to me, it's like, I think that this is an issue because there's people. I mean, of course, like I was saying, there's those people who have a, are in the million category. I mean, all of them are very generous anyway. I mean, like,
yeah,
they could probably give more, but they're very generous, especially
yeah.
the ones I know in churches. But when I think about who this guy was that Jesus talks to, in terms of what we might compare with today, someone who owns many lands, or has many
Oh, oh,
possessions.
yeah, owns land. He probably was. I'm guessing he's a landowner.
Right,
Um, he may have a business. Probably has his own business.
right,
Probably owns his own house.
right,
Probably has servants and slaves. So he had that typical first century Near Eastern
right,
lifestyle. Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And someone you might compare, you probably would compare that person more to, like, someone who has a significant amount of wealth,
yeah,
like, I mean, like, what I was saying earlier is that, there what formerly there was a member of the church I'm at now who, well, I mean, he's not a member anymore and his family's
yeah.
not members anymore, but it was the SC Johnson family that does SC
What?
Johnson
Oh,
wax.
really?
And so
Wow.
they still do all kinds of, plastic products and all
Yeah,
this stuff. I mean, So to me, like that's a wealthy person. You know what I mean? That's when you're
Yeah.
talking about a wealthy person, that's someone there who has buildings named after them, who's who has like 3 or 4 sites around the city that are like buildings that they built,
Yeah.
of the largesse of what they have. I mean, that's a wealthy wealthy person.
Right.
Like there's
I
another
just
level. There's a layer beneath that are the people who might have worked for him who have just a mere fraction of what that person has, you
right.
know, and we call them wealthy. And of course they're more wealthy than most of us. Like
Yeah.
that's true. But
Yeah.
like there's a big chasm between that person and the guy who managed their money, you
Yeah.
know, for all those years.
Yeah.
You know.
I think what people struggle at I mean, they said the world's population is 7 billion.
Hmm.
Of that 7 billion in the world, I think they said 70% have $25,000 and less in total assets.
Right.
So we talk about, I guess the term is plutocracy,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is, um, you know, the fact that wealth has grown exponentially for the top 2 and 3 classes, and
Right.
whereas the folks that are even below us, you know,
Right.
their income or their assets hasn't grown at all.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And 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 it seems like that the divide is just getting bigger
right,
over time, you
yeah.
know.
And
Yeah.
I think why I get upset at one of my favorite movies is Oliver Stone's Wall Street.
Mm,
I love that character Michael Douglas played, Gordon Gekko. I think he nailed it. Um,
yeah.
and one of my favorite scenes is when in that movie when Charlie Sheen is confronting him over the whole airline thing that he bought. He says, "How much is enough, Gordon? How much is
Right.
enough?" And I
Yeah.
think that's one of the questions I think that Jesus is asking this guy: How much is enough?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. For
yeah.
sure.
I mean, do you have to have you know 12 houses?
Right.
Um, or do you have to push products or systems that hurt people for the sake of you making money? I have to give you a classic story. Last week, I wanted to buy some weed killer,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't want to buy the weed killer that had the carcinogen.
Right. Right.
So I went to Tractor Supply, and I said, I want to buy some weed killer. I don't want to buy the Roundup or the one that has that
Right.
carcinogen in it. I want to buy a natural one. And they said, "Oh, you have to order it." I said, "We still sell."
Mhm.
Wait a minute, you still sell this
Right.
product that's been demonstrated in court of law to cause
Right.
cancer? You still sell it?
Right.
I mean, that's the problem I had.
Right. Right. Right.
Besides, you have systems that hold folks down, but you continue to do stuff that's killing people.
Right.
And you don't care.
Right. But the crazy thing is though is that like the person who's doing that is whoever owns Tractor Supply. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not anybody at that store.
yeah,
You know what I
no,
mean? It's not anybody. It's not it's not it. And of course it's the people who own Roundup.
yeah, right,
You know,
right,
well,
right,
who and what kills me about the Roundup thing is that I mean people have probably been saying that stuff is killing you since '73
right.
or something like that. So what it takes. They hide. They hide it and hide it for
Yeah,
30 years or whatever. It finally comes out, and they prove it. But
yeah,
then they just keep on. They charge them what, a few $1 million. Whatever. Pay this penalty.
yeah. I think
On-
that I think that they paid off the guy who was dying of cancer. I
Yeah.
guess they paid him off or paid his family off.
And then but there's other things that, shown like how there's I think there's some chemical in there that like creates this weird like I don't know, it's like some kind of micro something that gets in the water that like I mean, there's all kinds of, you're
Yeah,
right though. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, but I think I think it's hard to talk about these things because the people who we need to hold responsible are so far out of our
right.
our
Our
we don't
bailiwick. Yeah,
well we don't ever like to come into contact with them. I mean like well like with the climate change thing, like you've got to be in the room with all the oil companies and the military contractors and the what I mean like who somehow you have to get their attention you know
and
um,
in order to really to make change, I talk about this on Facebook all the time. One of the things I've been involved in, speaking of this whole wealth thing, I'm a member of an investment club for over 25 years.
mhm,
One of the founding members, and we just put together, not a lot of money, only $25 a month, and we buy and manage stocks. I mean,
right
one of the things that I talk about is, as a result of this, I always say you have to understand macro. In
right
order for us to make changes, we have to understand macroeconomics. We have to. We can't talk about making changes unless we understand how the thing operates.
hmm
You
hmm
know. So when we
right
talk about changes in the church, we have to educate our folks to understand how these systems even work.
right
Because you can't make changes unless you understand how the system works. How you got to
right
understand, you know, supply and demand. And they talk about what's going on with the supply chain.
right
Most folks don't even know what supply chain is. So how can you understand what's going on unless you understand the basics, of economics?
right right
Yeah.
yeah yeah no you're right yeah so anyway I want to show this little video.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen this yet, but I'm going to show this little video that talks about this difference between different levels of wealth. Um,
Okay.
let me find this. Let me find this video, and I'll share it with you.
The scale of $1 billion is really crazy. So let's say 1 grain of rice is equivalent to 100K, and 10 grains of rice would be then a million. Well, how much is a billion? So my Saturday night consisted of counting 10,000 grains of rice, one by one, just to show you guys how much $1 billion is. Of course I filmed it, and of course I time-lapsed it, and this is playing at, I don't even know, God knows how fast it's playing at, but so now I'm proud to present to you the results. That is $1 billion, where each grain of rice is worth 100K. Look how much rice this is, guys. That's crazy. I just bought you like a Lamborghini right here, and I didn't even notice it was gone. Here's a $5 million house in California. And oh look, I still have all this money.
Well, a lot of you guys asked me, well, how much does Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos have in terms of rice? So that was my mission, and I went to Costco. I got the rice, I brought it home, and once I brought it home, I went to work. I also want to say that I have 5 families that are going to take this unused rice, so it's totally not wasteful. Okay, so the moment you're waiting for 100K, 1 million, 1 billion, Jeff Bezos has 122 of these, or 58 pounds of rice. If each grain of rice was 100K. Like, look how big this is, guys. I'm going to show you the scale here. I'm going to put a keyboard into the bottom. Look how deep that goes. That's insane. This is Jeff Bezos' new house. It's $145 million in LA. And then, oh my God.
That's plutocracy.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, like, okay, I understand. Like, someone who has $1 million, like that's a lot of money, sure. But when you start talking about people who have billions of dollars, I mean,
Yeah.
that's right. Look who shows up in the chat. Come on now, girl.
Ask her where is she?
All right. Well,
But yeah, wow. When we talk about issues of economics, you know, you know, when I, when I look at, when we look at all the stuff that's going on, like, like this whole debt ceiling, and folks got to understand this. When folks say, "Well, I don't want to raise the debt. I don't want to raise the debt ceiling because I'm not creating any more debt." No, if you understand macro, that money's been already spent. So when you raise the debt ceiling, you're paying the bills for the credit card you already ran up.
right.
You ran that up in 2017 when you cut taxes,
Right.
and so that so that $1.5 trillion, when I look at politicians, when I look at this current race, I say, well, one of the reasons why I'm not a Youngkin fan, because he's clearly a supply side, supply side economics, which is the whole trickle down thing, which we see in policies like the 2017 tax cuts. That's pure supply side economics, or what Ronald Reagan did. He was a supply sider, which all that wealth supposedly is supposed to come down to the rest of us, but no, it doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing that people still think that's in any way a reality. I mean, in any way something that actually happens, because I mean, it's I think it's been proved wrong. I mean, we just talked about that. I mean, like the fact that inequality keeps growing and growing is
right. And unless you understand it, you can't change the system unless you understand the system. You can't make changes to a system. And I think that's what Gustavo Gutierrez was trying to say in his book Liberation Theology, because he talked about politics and he talked about economics.
right.
So you can't, unless you understand what's happening on a macro basis, you couldn't understand what his people were going through till you understand the economics of the Latin American debt problem,
Right.
which led to, or we can even talk about Haiti. Now, Haiti had to pay reparations to the country, and as a result, their economy has never recovered from that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and when they're not paying off debt, I mean, everything's being extracted from them by some corporation somewhere.
Right.
I was, it's so I was listening to someone talking about, how well, it was back when they were having the SOS Cuba thing, when everybody was out and when everybody was saying how, Cuba was in so much trouble or whatever, and people were like, well, look, if you want to see what U.S. intervention in a small island nation in the Caribbean looks like, just look at Haiti. So you're saying you want to turn Cuba into Haiti. Like that's what you want to do. If you want the U.S. to come in and take over, like that's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Because that's what's been happening. And it's interesting because, what they were saying is that if you go to Port-au-Prince or something like that, when you fly in, you're going to see, the big hotels and the big, there's wealthy people there.
Yeah.
They don't ever talk about the fact that like there's a whole bunch of people sucking everything out of all the people that they show you all the time.
Yeah. And that's a lot of the Caribbean islands. I mean, I remember a long time ago, my wife and I, we went to Jamaica, and I remember one thing we learned about Jamaica: the exchange rate, $1 American dollar was worth 33 Jamaican dollars. Right. So if you tip somebody $5, you probably paid their wages for the whole week. But you go in Jamaica and you come in, all the cruise ships come into this beautiful area, but you go out through Jamaica. I mean, first of all, the roads in Jamaica are so bad, that when you come into Jamaica, you find the Montego Bay and you go to the other towns to grill or whatever. But the distance from Montego Bay to Ocho Rios, where we stayed, it's only 50 miles. But it takes you 4 hours because the roads have potholes the size of my living room. So you got to negotiate those potholes, and then so you got this poor infrastructure. You got a country's economy who's totally relying on tourism. Basically, that's their economy. So when a hurricane comes, something comes in the tourism, you got no growth in your economy. Right. So I guess my point is, we have to understand these systems if we're gonna make change.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's see. We better get back to the text a little bit. Let's see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think I think this is an important part of the discussion, because I think I always, my thing about this text, first of all, is that I think people really like to dance around it. I think that's kind of the first thing I notice about it.
Yeah.
And I think what I was trying to say earlier is that, when you look at the bigger picture of things, I think, well, without sounding, without getting in trouble. I think that this idea of class is being brought up here.
Mhm.
That there is a class dimension to discipleship. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna, if you're going to be a true disciple, you're gonna find yourself on the side of the poor, because the poor are the ones throughout history who everyone leaves their side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they have some moral reason to stay there. And so, that's what I think, the kind of preferential option for the poor is about. It's about the fact that, like, someone has to consciously and morally say, okay, well, I'm going to stand with the poor because everyone else is going to leave.
Right. Right.
Unless we have, because but I think that I think when you talk about class, I think that you can't escape, well, like you said with Gutierrez, you can't escape the Marxian analysis that there's the owners and there's the workers.
Right.
And okay, some of the workers make, 300, 400,000, and some of the workers make $10 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's a difference between those people and the people who own everything.
Right. Right.
And if you want to change things, you have to get the ownership into the hands of the people who are actually making.
And you got to get the owners to be willing to say the system that the whole structure's got to change, because what Jesus is pushing this guy to do is to change the structure.
Right.
He's asking Bezos to change the structure by which he came to be Bezos.
Right.
And
right.
And that's a tough thing to do.
Right. Right. Well, I think the history might tell you that that only happens when people are forced to do that by one means or another. Yeah.
I mean, just give an example of the Bezos thing, the fact that Amazon itself, the fact that all of us here in Virginia paid more federal taxes in 2020 than Amazon did.
Right.
That a company with $12 billion in profits paid zero federal income taxes.
Right. Yeah.
But see, what a supply side would say is, well, when you do that, that allows Amazon to open up more businesses and pay folks more. But when you really look at this whole thing, what happens to those dollars? They go back to the stockholders.
Right. Right.
So it doesn't come down to the person who's working in the factory and Amazon making $12, $13 an hour. He doesn't get a company stock plan. He doesn't get a raise. He doesn't get a break in the cost of his health care. It all goes to the shareholders.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a great, I wish, I probably don't have it on hand, but there's a great graph that always troubles me a little bit because it kind of follows my my life years of, but it shows basically the stagnation of wages, how wages have basically stayed the same since the 70s.
Right.
And how capital has gone to the, has continued, all the profits have gone to the top, just more increasingly over time.
Yeah.
But wages to workers has stayed
Stayed the same for the past. Wages have been in the toilet for the past 20, 25 years. And that's why folks are they don't understand, well, why do we have the supply chain problem? Why do you have all these jobs out here and people not working? Well, we're paying folks more. You paying them more now, but what happened over the past 20, 25, 30 years?
Right.
And then the fact that, yeah, you're paying them more, but are you offering them benefits?
Right.
Are you offering them? I saw a story the other day where 2/3 of the workers who are making little or no wages don't have paid sick leave.
Right. Oh yeah. No. Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you talk about you want to change the system. Give the guy that's making $8,000 an hour paid sick leave so that when he gets sick, he doesn't choose between, well, I got to come to work with coronavirus, or I can stay home and recover.
Right. No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and if Leonard was on here too, I mean that we all would have health care,
Right.
and not have to spend, a quarter of our whatever we make or more just to be able to have health care.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not retired now. I could literally turn in my retirement papers right now. But the fact that my healthcare costs would go up 5 times to what I'm paying now. 5 times.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I mean, and we talk about healthcare. We have, Leonard can testify this more, that we have the most expensive healthcare system in the world with the worst possible outcomes.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I went and visited a guy in my church who he's going to be 100 years old in a couple weeks.
Wow.
And he was I think he was a pulmonary specialist. He was a doctor for years and years of his life. And we were talking, and we were talking about we got to talking about the church, and what the future of the church and what's going to happen. All the churches are losing, people. I mean, and I was trying to say, like, just kind of thought of it in the moment. Really, I've been thinking about it a little bit lately, but not completely. But people talk about the decline of the churches kind of happening, in that same kind of period where there was all this kind of, the 60s, 70s kind of like radical and, civil rights and all this kind of stuff going on. But, the other thing that tracks the decline of the church is the loss of all these manufacturing jobs, the loss of wages, the economic things that have taken that whole strong middle class that was the church, that was the basis of the church in the 40s and 50s, whenever you had strong social programs, lifting these people up. That was who was sitting in those pews.
Right.
That was who was paying those. That was who was building these buildings. That was who those were.
Right.
And as they, I mean, I bet you could find a graph somewhere marking the decline of that and put it right next to the decline in the churches, and you would see they would be almost parallel with each.
You're right on. And you think about now in 2021, Sunday mornings, what are a lot of young people doing? They're giggers. So you might not see a gigger at 9:30 or 11 o'clock. They're out doing their thing. So as the economy has changed, we can't try to figure out, well, why we lost 25 and 35 and 40-year-olds. I mean, some of it's theological in terms of, but some of it's, you're right on, the economy.
Right.
Folks out here working.
Well, and I think to me also some of the theological questions, especially I think especially since I think maybe the late 80s and on, some of the theological questions I think are deeply tied to the economic things, but people have not connected those things in their own minds.
Right.
I think as people in their 30s, 40s and older have realized that their kids are not going to do better than them. That they might have actually, that there's a good chance that their kids will either like maybe be on par with the outcomes that they have received, but there's a chance that they there's a good chance they might not even get that same level.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think when I
even
start,
even if they get the same education, they're going to be so much deeper in debt
yeah,
than even we were.
yeah,
That they're going to be spending. I mean, I think that I don't think that has really sunk into people about what like because I think unfortunately people's theology is also driven by just kind of like how the outcomes of their life take hold, without much effort.
yeah,
God is good. I've got a good job. I
yeah.
mean, like that sort of thing. Um,
I think a lot of times it's tied to personal piety, which is, I'm not saying that personal piety is not important, but, as I said to you before, I mean, one of my big issues is whenever I teach, when I do whatever, anything, is how does this text relate to issues of justice? And I'm always trying to push folks that way. And I think that while personal piety is important, but if the real issue is issues of justice. That's the real
yeah.
issue. Yeah, and this economic thing is just crazy.
Right.
I mean, just look at what's happening politically right now. What the Democrats are proposing, this 3.5 trillion. If you asked every Joe on the street, they like it.
Right.
They like it. I mean, you talking about shoring up daycare and paying for community college and all this other stuff, which is good, but to spend money on people is bad. That's socialism.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. If you can't make people's lives better without making them suffer.
yeah,
Like they have to go through something.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah, it's a twisted well, I mean, like you say, the whole system is just it's been set up, like I think people have said it before, it's working perfectly.
yeah,
It's working
yeah,
exactly the way it is intended to work.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's not like it's, off kilter. It's doing exactly the thing that it's supposed to be doing right now.
yeah. And
Um,
I guess when you get into it in terms of the whole climate issue, that
yeah,
that we don't care, that we don't understand that we have to make changes, and these changes are going to be drastic, and it's going to force us to change our lifestyle. And the
right,
question is, are people really ready to do that? You're talking about having to cut if you're really going to cut down on carbon emissions. You're talking about what? Maybe get rid of the combustible engine?
right, right.
Or are you talking about uh, having more folks like us tele telework, work from home, so they have to commute? Or you
Yeah,
talk about major changes to folks' lifestyle that I'm not sure folks are ready to do.
right. But again, I mean, a lot of that is driven by the fact that the people who are profiting from it right now have no desire to change.
Right.
I mean, we, you know, I'm sure it'll come out more and more over time, but I mean, all of these companies have known and have believed this for the longest time. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been, I mean, it's been clear. You can't tell me there's any coal or oil company that is in the dark about this. You know what I mean? Like they're just waiting for the conclusive science. No, I mean
Yeah.
they've known forever. It's
Yeah.
been again like 70s, 80s. People have
Yeah.
it's been clear. You know, um, and it's real. I mean, yeah, I think it's hard because I think we're at a scary place because you know even our elected officials are more beholden to those people than they are to anyone who votes for them.
Yeah.
I mean,
And getting back to this text, I think what we're saying is that Jesus is challenging us. He challenged his disciples that if you're going to stand with the poor, if you're going to stand the issues of justice, you got to be willing to make drastic change.
Right. Yeah.
You have to come out. You have to come out from your level of comfort.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and that's just a very, very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. I think my thing that I want to figure out how to say out of this is like there's a bunch of people out there, there's a bunch of teachers and pastors and who knows what else making $40,000-$60,000 a year, like, and that's a lot of people who are in our churches, in our, what I want to say from this, to me though, what I want to say about this text is like, yes, you're going to have to make sacrifices. You're going to have to make, you're going to have to make changes. But I don't think this text is talking to you. I think this text is talking to the person who owns your company, the person who, the person who, like, let's stop dividing ourselves between the person who makes 15, 20,000 and the person who makes 50 and 60, and talk. Because I mean, to me in churches, this is where this text ends up going.
Yeah.
It's like there's someone who makes 100, 150 down to someone, and then the people who are barely scraping by at poverty.
Yeah.
Conversation stays in amongst these people. Like you need to give up your second car and or whatever. It's like, okay, sure. Maybe that your heart calls you to that. But like, I would rather see all of these people, all these people who are really just working for, in the classic terminology, working for the man, somewhere. They need to be thinking that this text is about those people.
Yeah.
Because really, like you're saying, those are the people who will drive the actual change, going to make it so that we all live into the, the kingdom that God has for us.
And I guess what I'm saying is for us to understand and how to confront those people, we need to teach our people to better understand how the system works.
Right.
But also, Darren, I think we have to so that we don't want to get folks locked up in the type of fatalism that they're small, but they can't make a difference either.
Right.
You might be our ordinary working Joe, but you can by you making changes, by you being committed, you can also make a difference.
Right.
Yeah. And you can have impact. You might not be able to make an impact like an Oprah Winfrey can make an impact, but you can make a difference to your neighbor next door. You can make a difference to the person that you walk by every day. You can make a difference.
But yes, but I would say that the biggest difference you could make is if you all got together and said, we need to go and tell Oprah, and I mean, well, of course, and I mean, in reality, like you could, anyway, I mean, like, what is the Chris Rock joke? If Bill Gates woke up with Oprah's money, he'd be, I mean, so I don't want to come after Oprah first, but I'm just saying, like, I think we all need to realize that there's things that we can do. We can give to certain things. We can give our energy, our money, our time, our talents. We can give at all levels and make a change. But on a macro level, if we're going to make the change, it's going to actually change, the situation for the poor in general. It's going to have to be all of us coming together to say that this system that allows you to have all of this off, like extracting it from us.
Yeah.
Like this, that's not what God desires.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to change that. Like
Yeah.
in the meantime, yes, if I have 2 cloaks, I should give you 1,
Yeah.
and we should be a family like that. But we shouldn't be confused about, the person who's making the cloaks,
Right.
and selling them to everybody, being the one that we need to make sure that they, that the system, that the people who are actually sewing the coats have control over
Right.
that,
Right. Right. And I think if we're honest, when we get back to understanding how the early first Christian communities work, they were operating on basically on a socialism
Yeah.
principles. So all those folks that say socialism is bad really don't understand the nature of the New Testament and New Testament community. That's how they operated.
Well, I mean, and I get into this conversation with my mother a lot. I mean, this is a simple thing, right? The basic tenet of capitalism is that you are driven by making profit,
Right.
like increasing the capital that's
Right.
that's why they call it capitalism.
Yeah.
And so you can say that it has done this or that or whatever in the world and that it creates this or that, but I want you to find a place in the Bible where it says that let's create a system that's driven by increase in profits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the main driver of our whole economic and social reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like you tell me that is a God designed plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I like whatever you want to say, like just that is the basis of the system. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like
Yeah.
it is that, and anyone who tells you different is talking about something else or lying to you. Like either way, And so like I think that's and I don't know what I don't think anyone I don't know what it's hard because I don't think people want to really think about again, don't want to think about the fact that well, I mean it's and that's the thing about this roundup thing. In reality, like you don't have to be a bad person. Like if you own Roundup, you have to make a profit. So if you have to sell that stuff, like you're going to do that as long as it's not impacting your bottom line.
Yeah.
If you can pay $80 million and still make 20 billion or whatever, you know what I mean? Like
you'll do it. Yeah. If you got to pay out a few claims to satisfy
that's like all the oil spills, all the, all that stuff, all that stuff. I mean, they get fined this or that. It's minuscule compared to the profits that they're making,
Yeah.
So, I mean, so in a way, like, I think that unless we're challenging, and I guess that's probably something I didn't say clearly. Like, I don't necessarily mean that we have to make Bezos the devil or whatever and go after him. I mean, it's just Bezos is a product of the system. Bezos just actually like is a good capitalist.
Yeah.
There's no, like that's just what he is. And like as long as that's the prevailing system,
what he is.
We can't really blame him in the sense of him being a good capitalist. The problem is that like that's a bad system.
Yeah.
Like if he's going to have that much rice, well, I mean, and one rice was more than most people have.
Yeah, and I think
$100,000. Like I don't have that.
And I think what a lot of folks in the Black community get upset is that for 500 years, America benefited from a system that had free labor for 500 years.
Right.
And they want to demonize the folks after they were free because they're free now because they don't have that free labor no more.
Right.
So that's why you have Jim Crow and all the other crazy stuff.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. Well, it's funny because, well, it's not funny really. I mean, nothing funny about it. But in our church has this connection to the Underground Railroad, and there's a
Tell Marcy she better be on next week.
yeah, come on. Um,
Yeah.
and that's an interesting conversation to have too. Um, but anyway, so we have this connection to the Underground Railroad, and then we also have this. Someone had done I don't know if you ever heard. There's a book called Hidden in Plain View. It's about quilts, about quilt patterns and how they were used to help enslaved people to escape.
Okay.
Like, so they'd have these patterns and they would hang them out. Like there's one that's like a monkey wrench, and so like they would hang it out, and that would mean like you need to start getting your stuff together. And so over October, I'm doing a sermon series on these different patterns and talking about our connection, our history, and also like how these meanings of these patterns connect to the gospel as well. But I was saying on Sunday, just talking about how, talking about the 13th Amendment, like if we are, if we consider ourselves a moral people, and we like to look at the fact that, our church in particular has an abolitionist, ancestry. There was, there's people who were part of that were founding of the church. They, part of the Underground Railroad, all this stuff. But, why is there a caveat? Like, like if you're going to end slavery, why is there a caveat? Like, why is it unless you're convicted of a crime, or you know what I mean?
Right.
Like what, like what, like if you're a moral people and you want to end slavery, why is there like why is there a caveat? Like what, I just don't, like it doesn't make, like it really doesn't. Looking at it from, if you're a Christian, you're committed to abolition, and you're committed to what, who Jesus was in terms of liberation and peace and wholeness and justice. Like, where was the outcry to say, wait, like, what do you mean that we're going to add a clause, to kind of like, say, well, yeah, we're not going to have slavery, but we're going to have a little bit.
You got to figure out a way to get
we're going to have a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's,
yeah.
And like, I think we tell ourselves the narrative of, Civil War, freeing the slaves, da 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 da, and it's like, but like right then and there, we still, so it's so glaring what's going to happen if we leave this in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and like it's just, yeah. I mean, I think it's fascinating, our ability to lie to ourselves, I guess,
Yeah, I think I say it all the time. This whole critical race theory stuff is like, well, my favorite movies is A Few Good Men. That scene in the courtroom was Jack Nicholson says, "You can't handle the truth.
Right.
America can't handle the truth about itself, its history. It just can't face the truth."
Right. Well, I was thinking about that the other day, and I was thinking about the fact that, like, when I was in school, I don't think in the normal span of history, you don't talk about enslaved people until you start talking about the Civil War.
Right.
So it only even becomes a conversation when, basically like two groups of white people have to get into a major conflict.
Yeah.
And then we have to kind of raise this issue about like, there was this thing going on, da, da, da. But I think like that's part of the problem, is that, like, the 1619 critical race, all that stuff kind of challenges right there. We have to start talking. So this means we have to start talking about enslaved people before it has something to do with white people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, like before it's like, before it fits into that thing. I mean, yeah, I think and yeah, challenge is just a story that you tell yourself
Yeah.
more than anything. It's just
Yeah.
you don't want to think about the fact that you have to change this in your head.
I was listening to the gubernatorial debates, and Glenn Youngkin made a statement. He said I think his statement was, "We got to teach our kids real history." I'm like, what the heck does that mean? That's it. I said, what does that mean? We got to teach our kids real history. And he didn't define what he meant when he said that.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, all right,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just difficult. It's just difficult for America to face the truth, man. And I think what folks get upset with as well when you bring up these issues. Well, you're making me feel bad. I'm not trying to make you feel bad, but I want you to be committed to making change,
Right.
to changing the system.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you're the problem. What I'm saying is we want you to be committed to change so that we can have love and justice and these things.
Right.
Be willing to be got to be committed.
And that's why I think yeah. Well,
Yep.
that's probably even a generous. That's
generous. Yeah.
That's yeah. I'm not watching Virginia gubernatorial debates. I'll tell you that. But I'm going to go on a limb and say that the real history comes from the textbooks that the Daughters of Confederacy put together back.
Yeah.
That's probably where the real history comes from.
Yeah.
Well, that I guess what you were to say to respond to what you're saying too. I think and that's why I think that's what I was trying to get at. I feel like a lot of the things around this text in churches ends up trying to make people who in the end are yes, they have it better than a lot of people, they do, but in their minds and in some ways rightfully, they're just struggling too, they're working 50-hour weeks, 60-hour weeks, both people are working, they're making their whatever. They're maybe there's two people making $50,000-$60,000, and they have a little bit, and we try to say to them hey, look, you got to think about, your whatever, did you get?
And that's why I struggle with getting back a little bit of politics again. This whole thing, this Build Back Better plan, the 3.5 trillion. Yeah. We look at what's West Virginia mansion. I'm like, your state, excuse my language, don't have a pocket instead of when to throw it out. West Virginia. So why are you fighting for something that can benefit your state, which is economically it's bottom of the barrel?
Right.
I don't understand why your state and a lot of the people in the state are fighting against something which they could benefit from.
Right.
Is it that okay? Then we're buying the socialism. Then are they buying the narrative? They can't find a way. They can't find their way out of the narrative.
Right. Yeah. I don't even know. I mean, I know for him, he's probably just. I mean, he's looking after his own self.
His own self. Yeah.
He's probably getting. I mean, he's in a very pivotal position, so I'm sure he's getting all kinds of rewards from what he's.
Oh yeah.
He's not without. Yeah. I mean,
one thing I remember my history teacher used to say that politics is the art of the pragmatic. He always used to say that. The art of the pragmatic. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's force Marcy to commit to being on the stream next week. We'll do the same text. Marcy.
What's next week?
Let's just do with the same text next week and actually go more into the actual text.
Okay.
Maybe dig into the there's some really good just language stuff and bouncing off some things that I heard about, and maybe we can okay, she got an exclamation point next to it.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, I don't know who's out there, but you see this down here. All right.
She said she'll be there.
All right. So we're gonna. All right. So we'll go. We'll stick with.
Are you preaching this text this Sunday?
No, I'm not. I'm actually. I had 3 weeks when I was on the Mark text, and it was really nice to have prepared beforehand. But uh, yeah, no, I'm doing so. Like, yeah, this past Sunday, the quilt pattern was the bear's paw, which the idea was with the bear's paw was that when you escaped, if you were going through like the mountains, you would follow the track of the bear. Like, so
Okay.
you remember to follow the bear, because it would lead you
Okay.
to water and lead
Okay.
you, and the bear had made the trek through the mountains. And so I
Okay.
used the Hebrews text that talks about Jesus being the exact imprint
Okay.
of God,
Okay.
and talking about how Jesus left a trail and a track for us to follow,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think the next couple weeks I'm in Corinthians, doing.
That's the lectionary text.
No, it's not. I went on. I had to go off
Oh,
to make the quilt things work. I had to go off the
oh,
next. I
okay.
think the next one I'm doing is it's called the log cabin, and the log cabin was the quilt pattern was supposed to indicate that the people in that house were a safe. They
Okay.
were a part of the Underground Railroad, and
Okay.
one of the patterns has a yellow square in the middle, to kind of like a like saying like a light, in the. And so I'm doing like the Isaiah text about being a light to the nations,
Okay.
and then Corinthians like something along those lines too. So
Okay.
yeah, it should be fun,
Okay.
But
Okay.
yes, I'm off lectionary for a little while.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know whether I go back, but
They don't slap your hand for doing that, do they?
no. Well, they're enjoying this because we get to highlight the quilts that
Okay.
were made in the church, and some of our history. Because one of the things I brought up from the history of the church, talking about this, politics kind of side of things, is that there's this letter that gets written by a bunch of folks from the town, and about about 6 or 7 of the signatories on it are from the church.
Okay.
And it's basically after the 1840 census.
Okay.
A bunch of people see that there are that enslaved people are listed on the census in Wisconsin. So they write to the U.S. Congress, and they're basically like, look, like, you need to do something, because we don't want this in our state. Like,
Okay.
you need to get rid of this. Like this is this is evil. We need it out of our state. So yeah, it was just so they're enjoying like bringing up that
Okay.
bringing up the history and going back. So it'll be
Okay. Good stuff, man. Good
Yeah.
stuff. Good stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Fun time.
I think Monday's a holiday too, so I think I'll be off. So give me some more time to look at some stuff too. I think it's isn't it Columbus Day? I think Monday's Columbus Day. I think the man that got lost. I think it's his holiday. Monday. I think.
We might have to bring that in too.
Yeah. Yep. I'm pretty sure it is. So, yeah. So we'll have Marcy with us this coming Monday.
Oh, sorry, I got a text.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Yeah. Let's plan on that, and yeah, we'll yeah, Indigenous Peoples Day, right? Yeah.
Yep.
To talk about.
Yep.
The,
All right, Dan. We'll have a good week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
I'll talk to you.